Hi there, my name is Lynn Allen. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar called Can DraftSight Really Replace AutoCAD? If you're joining me today, I'm assuming it's because you're trying to figure out whether or not DraftSight really is a viable replacement for your beloved AutoCAD. All right, we're going to talk all about that today. But first, let me tell you just a little bit about myself because I think it's very relevant to this webinar in case you have no idea who I am. I've been using AutoCAD since release 1.4. That's right, a long time, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. I've actually written 3 books on AutoCAD. I had a column in a magazine for almost 20 years, a monthly column completely focused on AutoCAD, back when people used to read magazines. I've done hundreds of AutoCAD videos, and I worked for Autodesk, the company that makes AutoCAD, for almost 25 years, where I was their face of AutoCAD. All right, so you are in good hands. I love AutoCAD. Not too many people know it better than I do, and not too many people really think as highly of it as I do. So I get where you're coming from. All right, I'm going to be able to talk to you in terms that you completely understand. My objective today, however, is to prove to you that I believe that you can use DraftSight for your CAD needs. But I'm gonna come clean with you. I think that some people are better suited for it than others, and we're going to talk all about that because ultimately I just want you to be happy with whatever CAD product you choose to use. I also will tell you though, if you do decide to make the move over to DraftSight, that you can save a lot of money while you're at it. So you'll hear me, I talk a lot about that, right? Because DraftSight basically costs per year, what AutoCAD costs per month. So it's a huge savings if you feel like it will do the job for you. And I love this picture because it has a little money tree. If you listen to any of my videos about DraftSight, I'm always talking about, unless you have a money tree growing in the backyard, you should probably take a good close look at DraftSight, which is just such a great software product. So let's talk about that. So I think DraftSight is a good solution for you if, as I said, you want to save a lot of money, or even if you work for a large corporation and you have an endless budget, I bet you still would like to take that extra money that you could save and put it towards something else. I'm just saying, possible. And you are open-minded. That is the key. Right? So if you are a closed-minded individual and you want everything to be exactly like AutoCAD, you're going to be very unhappy with DraftSight because it is not exactly like AutoCAD. That would not be fair to Autodesk. I worked there a long time. That would not be fair. They worked hard to make AutoCAD the great product that it is. And you can't just come along and completely duplicate that. It would just not be fair. It would be wrong on all levels. But it is extremely similar to AutoCAD. I'm going to show you how you will feel right at home inside a DraftSight in no time at all because it is very similar. I often call it a fraternal twin to AutoCAD. Not identical, but fraternal. And I'm going to show you so you can decide whether or not it's something that you can adjust to. I've certainly adjusted in no time at all, but you have to be open-minded. And maybe you want to buy a perpetual license. If you're not familiar with what that term is, us software people, we call it that all the time, but that means you want to actually just own the software product, right? I want to own it. It's mine. I don't have to give you more money every year if I don't want to. It's mine. I own it. Or maybe you work in a corporation where you want network licenses. You have 20 people who use AutoCAD very rarely. So maybe you just want to buy 10 network licenses because you guys hardly ever use it. You can't do that anymore with AutoCAD. So this would be a perfect example where DraftSight could come to the rescue. And maybe you're a little unhappy with your existing CAD company, whichever company that happens to be. And maybe you're craving your CAD freedom. That's the image that I have down there. You're unhappy with your CAD company. You want to get out. You want to get out from underneath those chains. Now, this is what I was talking about before. I'm calling them as I see it. DraftSight is not for you if, I love this image. If you're one of those people that says, you can have my AutoCAD when you pry it from my cold, dead hands, that's what that is. DraftSight is not for you. As mentioned, you need to be open-minded. If you've built your whole career on AutoCAD and you can't, you work on it 10 hours a day and you've customized the heck out of it to get it exactly the way you want it to be, and you just live and die by the AutoCAD sword, I just think you're going to be unhappy because it isn't AutoCAD. So if that is the case, if you are not flexible, and if you much prefer to be using AutoCAD and not saving that money, then DraftSight is definitely not for you. And I can't emphasize that enough. You have to be open-minded, all right? It's not identical. Let's take a look at what our agenda is going to have on it. We're going to look at first impressions. I'm going to walk you right into DraftSight. We're going to open it up and I'm going to show you, introduce you to the user interface so you can get a feeling for it, all right? And I'll show you how it works. What does it feel like for you? And I'll talk about that learning curve and how long is it going to take you to get comfortable in it. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I am not a DraftSight expert. I want you to keep that in the back of your mind as I'm walking you through it. I am going to tell you that I whined for the first hour because it wasn't AutoCAD, maybe 2. There will be whining involved because we don't like change. Nobody likes change. There's a few people. I don't know who they are. I don't like change. I do not like change. There was some whining involved right up front. I'm just going to come clean with you because it takes a while to make those adjustments. I don't whine anymore. I'm fine with it. Absolutely fine with it. Now I actually have discovered some things in DraftSight that don't exist in AutoCAD that I love. I'm right at home. I'm comfortable. I can get my job done with DraftSight, and there's so many things I'd rather spend that extra money on, like shoes, for example. Anyway. And we're going to take a look at some cool tools, like I had said here, that AutoCAD just doesn't have. One of them, I knew that AutoCAD didn't have it. And while I still worked at Autodesk, I was begging them to try to put it in the product, which they did. They still haven't done. And let's talk about what about customization. Many of you have customized the heck out of AutoCAD. What's going to happen to all that customization? You don't want to start over from scratch, do you? So let's talk about that. And what's coming up? As far as DraftSight is concerned, what's around the corner? What's in the next release of DraftSight? What can you expect to see on the horizon? And then if you were to just go say today, Lynn, I want to go buy a DraftSight. There's a few different options available to you. I want to make sure you pick the right one. I don't want you spending more money than you have to. So I'm going to explain them to you so that you feel comfortable when you make that decision. All right. So we're going to educate you today. You're going to be smart when you leave here. So hopefully you will have the answer to your question whether or not you feel that DraftSight is right for you. So first impressions, I'm going to tell you the best thing about DraftSight is it speaks AutoCAD. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. It realizes that you're coming from AutoCAD, and so they did whatever they could to help you feel comfortable in the environment. Fraternal twin, not identical twin, but you're going to feel right at home. So that's the best part. I often joke, if I get used to using DraftSight, I think anybody can. All right, so here we are inside of DraftSight. How are you feeling so far? I like the black background. You don't have to have the black background. That's up to you. Nevertheless, it feels okay so far. I'm looking around on the screen. I see the command line is in the lower left-hand corner where God intended it to be. So I'm pretty happy about that. I have not changed anything. Okay, so I didn't, nothing up my sleeve here. I didn't come in and manipulate it around, just so you know, because I want you to know what it's going to feel like when you walk in there. Let's see, what else have I got? I've got the ribbon across the top. I have workspaces, the quick access toolbar. That all looks the same. I've got the status bar at the bottom of the screen. It looks a little light. You know, the AutoCAD status bar, in my mind, is a little too heavy. It has too many tools. This one looks a little light. Is it going to have enough in it? So we're going to take a tour of that. We've got model space and layout tabs. So far, so good. I feel comfortable. I have a few drawings open, as you can see. I would like to point out that any new drawing, I just want to show you, this is a brand new drawing. It's not called Drawing 1 like it is inside of AutoCAD. It's called No Name, which automatically I know means that DraftSight is cool because all the new drawings are named after a rapper. So that makes it even cooler. You guys are all like going, wait, there's a rapper named No Name There Is. Google her. So let's go back to where were we? Okay, what else though? I'm looking over on the right-hand side of the screen. Lynn, this does not feel like AutoCAD. I got some news, although AutoCAD does like to tell you stuff. And you do have to turn a variety of things off when you first get into AutoCAD. You and I both know that's true. Over here on the right, I have these palettes, news. All right, I guess if you want to read that, you can, but I don't want to, so I'm going to close that. And then what's this over here? G code generator. All right, if I was mechanical, I guess that would sound pretty cool. I'm not mechanical, so I'm going to close that. If you are, you can keep it open and check it out. If you want to do some CNC programming, I'm going to close that. Don't need that. Home by Me. First of all, you'd have to log in. If you had this product called Home by Me, I bet you most of you don't. What is it? It's actually a very cool software product. If you decide that you want to do some low stress designs on your own house, I want you to go check this out. It's a free product called Home by Me. It's done by the same company that has produced DraftSight. That's why it's an option. But I don't have that. Even I don't have it. So I'm going to close it. 3D Content Central. Oh, I like this. This allows you to have access to some content for like blocks and things like that. But you don't need, I don't know enough about that yet. So I'm going to get rid of that for now. We can talk about that another time. And what is this? Oh, properties. Okay. Something I recognize. Okay, I'll leave that one open. So the first time you go in, you might want to close some of those because don't remind me of AutoCAD. And I am not very open-minded. I like to feel right at home. Later on, you can add them if you want to. And now I feel better. Do you feel better? I feel better. Now I really do feel like I'm inside of AutoCAD. What else have we got going on? Let's take a look at these workspaces. Upper left-hand corner of the screen, you will see that I have the workspaces I can expect. The classic workspace. Do you guys remember this? Autodesk got rid of it. They made it so hard to find, it was almost impossible to get it back. But for those of you who like toolbars and pull-down menus, guess what? You can get to it very easily. They did not hide it inside of DraftSight. I like that. DraftSight's more of a people pleaser if you ask me. So that's an option for you. You'd have to come over here and close those palettes again. It's not a big deal. I have actually already saved. There's a 3D modeling one for those of you who buy the DraftSight that gives you access to 3D. Of course, there is one. I'm going to go back over to I have my own workspace that I have it set up with just properties over there and nothing I don't recognize because I don't like change. And it's set up exactly the way I want it to be. All right, so I feel comfortable. I like the ribbon. I'm a fan of the ribbon. I'm all good with the ribbon. Okay, what else have I got going on? All right, we got the command line, as I mentioned down here. As I move my cursor down to the status bar, let's take a look at what's going on. Okay, the first tool on the status bar is called TB layers. And already I'm like, you're like, Lynn, we don't have a TB layers in AutoCAD. I don't feel comfortable. Already I'm whining, right? It is the best tool. I'm going to talk about it later. You're going to be glad it's on the status bar, but you're right, it is new. Snap, snore, that's on the AutoCAD status bar. Okay, but that's good, it's there. And you can see, I want you to know, just so you know, the function keys are exactly the same if you use your function keys. And what else we got? We got grid. All right, that's the same. And ortho, that's down there. Polar for polar snaps. Okay, whatever. That's the same. No surprises there. I feel comfortable. I'm not freaking out. And then we have eSnap. eSnap. What's that? It's the same as OSnap. Different character. Instead of object snap, it's entity snap. All right, can you handle that? I can handle that. That's no big deal. Once again, fraternal twins. Can't be identical. It wouldn't be right. E-track. Entity tracking instead of object tracking. So instead of O-track, it's E-track. Can you handle that? Very similar. I think you can handle that. Dimension bounding box. What is that, Lynn? We don't have that in AutoCAD. Yo, wish you did have that in AutoCAD. I'm going to talk about that later. That has to do with auto dimensioning, which is beyond cool and freaking awesome. And then we also have, what else do we have down here? A Q input. What's that? Dynamic input, quick input, dynamic input. Same idea. And we have the dynamic CCS, custom coordinate system versus the user coordinate system. So instead of UCS, we have CCS. Does the same thing, works basically the same way. So I think we can all handle that. We have annotation scale factor. This guy is exactly the same for the most part, right? So there's no surprises there. I'm currently working one-to-one. You guys are familiar with that. And then last but not least, these are the coordinates. You can see they change as I move my cursor around on the screen. Okay, Zen, I feel okay. I feel all right. I'm not freaking out. Okay, status bar, check. I'm okay with the status bar. What else have I got going on? If you take a look up here in the ribbon, it looks kind of light because none of the panels pull down. You can see normally we're used to an arrow here. We can pull the panels down. Well, am I missing all those tools? No, you're not missing all those tools. If I click here on line, you will see that the tools are just elevated. Actually, I think they're a little easier to get to. Underneath line, I have infinite line, X lines, and rays, and then then we have a rich line. And what is that? These happen to be M lines, multiple lines, and they actually did a better job, I think, in here than they did in AutoCAD with the M lines. I'm not an M line fan. I don't know about you. M line, ML edit. Oh my gosh, what painful commands inside of AutoCAD. So they did a nice job of them here. Anyway, just so you know, there are more options underneath each of these, right? You'll see underneath polyline, there's rectangles and polygons and rings. What's a ring? Do you know what ring is? I'm gonna wait. Donut. I was a little sad because I actually like the name donut. So you do have to get used to some of these things. And then you'll see 3D polyline there. So the point is that underneath you'll see a lot more arrows that are elevated up above. If I move over here, you will see under modify, once again, I feel like I don't have as many commands. That's because they're all underneath, they're just condensed, right? I click up here, you'll see copy and move and rotate and mirror and scale and stretch and quick modify. What is that? Oh, that is MoCo row and scale, by the way. MoCo row combined with scale. So it's a whole bunch of commands in one. Very similar to what we have inside of AutoCAD, except it's just, slightly different name. So I'm going to show you one more thing, just because I have to. My favorite command actually inside of DraftSight is this Powertrim, which I'm going to talk about later. Oh my gosh, I love this command. I had serious command envy of this when I worked at Autodesk. But you'll see some commands that are fabulous, like corner trim. How many times did we had to go in, set the fillet radius to 0, go in, and then, trim off the corners? We do it all the time, right? Inside of AutoCAD. Well, here it's a tool, very easy to get to. Just grab it and go. A lot of common sense things like that happening inside of DraftSight. All right, what else have I got going on? If I were to just click on an object, I want you to see this very cool command bar that pops up for any command. Here you can zoom to a selection. So I would just zoom in on that object very, very quickly. I can very quickly change the line type. I can change the weight. What else can I do? Pick again, sorry. You can tell it's basically live. You can see on here the layer manager, which we'll take a look at really quickly because if you don't feel comfortable with layers, you're not going to like the program. The layer command is the third most frequently used command in AutoCAD. Entity to active layer takes the object and moves it to the current layer. Change the entity layer, it would change the current layer, right? And so on and so forth. You can see it allows you to turn this into a block very quickly, but some very, very cool tools right there at your fingertips, which I love. All right, we have right-click menus as well. If I click on this and I do a right-click, you will see that very similar to what we have inside of AutoCAD, things like select matching. That's the same as select similar. If I click on that, you'll see it grabbed all of the other blocks that were trucks. If I zoom out, you can see that. So very similar tools to what you would expect. All right, but here's the most important part. I told you it spoke AutoCAD, right? I do feel comfortable, but I really need to know it speaks AutoCAD. So if you type in an AutoCAD command, I don't know where it is. I don't know the name of the DraftSight command, like purge, for example. If I start to type in purge, you will see that it recognizes that you're trying to speak AutoCAD, and it knows that you're trying to execute the DraftSight command clean. Purge. Oh my gosh. That's like a terrible name for a command anyway, isn't it? Named after an incredibly violent movie. Let's face it. You're trying to exorcise the demons from your AutoCAD drawing. Anyway, purge. This is a much sweeter name, clean. So if I type in purge, you'll see that it goes into the clean command. It doesn't have any problem speaking AutoCAD. Another example, if I type in overkill, that's another command I like to use a lot in AutoCAD, which deletes duplicate objects. If you're not familiar with that command, you'll see it immediately executes a command called discard duplicates. Well, that's a mouthful, right? But if I go into that, it takes me into the command for discarding duplicates. I'm just going to tell it I want it to basically check out all of the objects in my drawing. So some very, very cool tools, very easy to work with. I can feel right at home very, very quickly. I promised you I would go into layers. I can type it in from the command prompt, or I can get to the layer manager. Right here, you will see it's not layer manager, it's layers manager. We will not charge you for that extra character. So once again, fraternal twins, not identical twins. You'll see that it's a beautiful dialog box. I was a math major. I love grid lines. It's so much easier, I think, for you to see what layer has what color, are they frozen or locked or whatever. It's very, very obvious here. It uses the entire, all of the screen real estate in there, which makes me happy. Very similar. Nothing surprising in here. The same 4 tools are in the upper left-hand corner of the dialog box. New, creating new layers. VP freeze, delete for deleting the layer, and activate your layer. There's no activate inside of AutoCAD. That just allows you to set a layer to be the current layer. So instead of current, it's activate, which I think makes more sense anyway, because look at all my layers are current, right? They're all with me. They're currently in my drawing. I like activate much better anyway. And you know what else I like? I like the fact that there's words on here. It tells me what these tools are. I can read. Can you read? We can read. I love it when I don't have to sit and wait for a tooltip, don't you? You'll also see that I have the ability to go into the layer states manager over here, and you'll see that I have the ability to do filters. So just like everything that you need is here in this dialog box. You should feel right at home in no time at all. So very low stress. I think I showed you a pretty good tour of what it's like to run around in here. Really no surprises. Let's go back over to our PowerPoint. And here's just another example of what I was trying to talk about. Here's object snaps versus entity snaps, and just so you know, by the way, in the early days of AutoCAD, objects were called entities, and we called them entities. And then somebody declared that we were not going to call them entities anymore. We were going to call them objects. And I had, I spent the first 15 years of my AutoCAD life calling them entities. I had to flip them to objects, and now here I am in DraftSight. I got to flip the thought back. So hopefully it's easy for you to make that very simple low stress switch. But look at how similar they are. You can see that while the name may be slightly different, the purpose is exactly the same. So you should be able to very successfully and easily use the object snaps. You probably don't use them all anyway. Do you use them all? And I want you to know that DraftSight also reads DWG files backwards, forwards, no problems. And of course, template files, DWT, DXF files, you name it. And I like to joke, nobody needs to know. So if you're working with a customer and they have AutoCAD, they send you their DWG files and you send them DWG files, no problem. Once again, nobody needs to know. It's your little secret, and it's a millions of other people's little secret, by the way. You can be proud to let them know you're using DraftSight, or you can keep it to yourself. It's completely up to you. As far as saving back is concerned, I want you to see over on the left, these are all the options that AutoCAD has to save back to, and you can see it easily saves back to a release 14 DWG file. I want you just to notice over on the right, these are all of the options for saving back in DraftSight. There are many more options. In fact, you can even save back to a release 12 drawing file if you can imagine. And I remember when I worked at Autodesk, there was somebody that came up and was talking to me, and they said that they had AutoCAD and they had DraftSight. And I said, oh, well, why do you have DraftSight? They said, well, we actually use it, especially at this time. They needed to save back to a file format that AutoCAD didn't support anymore, and that DraftSight did support. And they said that they also noticed that when they had a corrupted drawing file, they could bring it into DraftSight. DraftSight would fix it, and then they could use it again in AutoCAD. Okay, I don't know if that's still true, but the point is that DraftSight does a beautiful job working with your AutoCAD DWG files. I think that's the takeaway there. And then taking a look at the hardware requirements to run DraftSight, I want to remind you that AutoCAD is 39 years old, almost 40 years old. And along with that, you get a lot of baggage. It is a big old software product. And one of the things about Autodesk is that they don't want to get rid of any commands because, I don't know, Dale in Des Moines might still be using such and such command. We don't want to upset Dale. And understandably, which I think is great that they do that. But what happens is you end up with this very bloated software product. Whereas if you were to create a CAD product from scratch, you would never recreate some of these commands that nobody uses anymore. You would start over fresh. You would keep it nice and lightweight. AutoCAD just has a lot of baggage when it comes to the size, for example. And as you can see here, it takes 7 gigabytes to install. AutoCAD with DraftSight, just 1 gigabyte. Doesn't require nearly as much RAM to be fast. And so ultimately you might be able to justify saving money on hardware as well. So you definitely will save money on software, and you can save money on hardware as well. We like to save money. How about some cool tools that AutoCAD doesn't have? The first one that I mentioned, my favorite tool, Powertrim, was something that I really wanted Autodesk to add into the product while I was still at Autodesk. Powertrim, we trim all the time. Powertrim doesn't require you to set up any cutting edges. You just start to trim the heck out of it. Oh my gosh, it's fabulous. And if you decide you want to extend, hold the shift key down. Once again, you don't need to have any boundary edges. It just goes until it finds an edge. It's fabulous. It's like that's the way the trim command should be. Powertrim, you're going to want that tool. And then TB layer, I mentioned this to you. I said, hey, this is on the status bar. Well, this is what TB layer is. It allows you to assign a layer per object type. So you could say, I want all of my text to go on a specific layer. I want all my dimensions to go on a specific layer. You could say, I want all my circles to go on a specific layer. You have many options available to you, hatching and so on. Now you can do this with some objects inside of AutoCAD, if you like dimensions and hatching, but this allows you to much more capabilities, and I absolutely love this. It's all laid out in a very nice dashboard inside of AutoCAD. You have to know all the different places where you go to set them up. This is beautiful. I absolutely love this. And one of the things I also want to point out is that as you go through DraftSight, it feels a little mechanically focused, and that is because DraftSight was originally designed by the people who create Solidworks. Solidworks is like the #1 solid modeling program in the world for mechanical. It's a great product, and it kind of has that focus. And but surprisingly, most of the people who use DraftSight actually are in the AEC industry. So they're starting to put more and more AEC tools in it. So you'll see it starts to feel a little bit more comfy and cozy for those of you who are in the AEC industry, FM industry, and things like that. But you can see it here in this dialog box. You'll see some like holes and hardware, things like that feel more like mechanical. Just try to explain that a little bit. What else have we got? Something called gestures. This also came from SolidWorks. The ability to set it up so that when you hold your right mouse button down, you just hold it down and you move to the right or to the top or whatever, however you set it up, it will actually execute a variety of commands. And you get that little wheel on there and you can just very quickly execute a command. And I just did a video tip on this for a magazine, online magazine called Catalyst, CADALYST. Just Google me, Lynn Allen, and gestures, and you'll find it if you want more information on this. But this is another really cool tool that I wish AutoCAD had. And for those of you in the Mac world, you might be familiar with these as well. But these gestures are great, and you can set them up to have whatever cool tool you wanted to execute. You wanted to execute Powertrim, that's what I set it up for. So it's always right there available to you, right at just all you do is hold that right mouse button down and go. I love that. Or maybe save, or I would put the layer manager on there. Wait, it's the layers manager, right? Not layers, layers manager. All right, so the point is that you're going to see some amazing tools in this product that we don't have in AutoCAD. And I'm going to end on this one. When I worked at Autodesk, I used to say, I just want a command for dimensioning where I can just window everything and then magic will happen and the dimensions will appear. That's kind of what auto dimensioning is. Oh yeah, that's what it is. You window the objects you want to dimension because maybe it's not all of them. And then you basically say to it what type of dimensioning you want. And do you want it to the right, to the left, above, below, whatever, and then you're pretty much done. You just click on accept, and that, let me tell you, is a beautiful thing. Auto dimensioning, and you saw bounding box down there on the status bar. We talked about that. Auto dimension. It should just say magic on there. Magic dimensioning. Why don't they let me name these things? Maybe they will. All right. What about your customization? All right. Let me let's be honest. All right, here I want you to know what you're getting, what you're not getting. If you have written Lisp routines, no problem, those will run. If you've written visual Lisp routines, they currently do not run. They will run in the next release, or they're just about to come out with visual Lisp. By the time you watch this, it may already be in the product. So I wouldn't let that slow you down, because you're going to get that. And I know a lot of you out there have written Lisp routines. Some of you have. Those of you who are really into your product probably have. And then aliases, your PGP file. All right, this is where I'm coming clean with you. No, guess what? If you have written a whole bunch of your own aliases, you're going to have to do it again. And I get why that's the case, because I told you it speaks AutoCAD. It does that through its own aliases. So when I typed in purge, it did the clean command. I think it would be really complicated for it to know which ones are your aliases or its aliases. Consequently, it's a no-go on the PGP. I don't think that's so bad, but you need to know that that's the case. You're going to have to redo those. The CUIs, so your menu, your those complex menu files, you're good. Yes, your CUIs, your CUIXs, your MNU files, your menu files. Wow, you still have menu files. I'm impressed. You have an old version of AutoCAD. But anyway, I want you to know those go across. Your line types, your custom line types, absolutely no problem. Custom hatch patterns, yes. Of course, your template files go across. Your custom fonts, if you have any of those, SHX files, absolutely. And then if you have any Lisp routines that support your menu files, your MNLs, those are going to go across as well. No problem. All right, are we in? So there's the deal. I'm going to also say palettes. If you have done a lot of customization with palettes, those are currently not supported, but they're working on that as well. I just want everybody to know what the real deal is. All right. And there is a very robust API, just so you know. It supports all different types of languages, C++, C#, I don't know, VBA, you name it, EIEIO. You'll see a lot of those very cool features I talked about were all written in this API. I know people love it. So I highly recommend that you give it a try. You're going to love it. DraftSight 2021 is right around the corner, and it has a lot of features in it that you're going to love. So one of the things that is missing, which I can't stand is missing, are sheet sets. And if you're really into AutoCAD, you probably are using sheet sets and couldn't live without it. So just so you know, that's going to be added in. Thank goodness. Whew. Visual Lisp, I told you that's going to be added in. Something called associative patterns. So it already has arrays. This is kind of like grips on steroids. And when I used to teach 60 AutoCAD tips in 60 minutes at Autodesk University, I used to show you how you could do these really, really cool arrays using grips. And nobody ever knew you could do that. This just basically allows you to create these very cool patterns, but they're not attached to each other. So you can pull them out individually and things like that. You'll see. They're cool. I like them. And importing PDFs. Look, that was the #1 wish list for years and years at Autodesk, which they finally granted. And I know that you probably want to be able to import a PDF and have it convert over to objects, right? Or in our case, entities. And that is what is coming in SP1. DraftSight Professional, this to me is the sweet spot for most of us. It's $199 a year. It's still a fraction of the cost of AutoCAD. You can see up here you can get 8 seats of DraftSight Professional for less than 1 seat of AutoCAD for sure. And it has, it has Lisp, it has all those great tools I was talking about that I was saying I wish that AutoCAD had. It has supports for the API. To me, this is really the product that's the most popular in my mind. And still a fraction of the cost of LT, and it has Lisp, and LT doesn't have Lisp, right? Of AutoCAD LT. I just think this is the cool one. And then there's DraftSight Premium. So this is really for those of you who want the 3D capabilities. If you decide you need that Z, X, Y, and Z, then you're going to need to up your game and go for DraftSight Premium. So that's $4.99 a year, but you do get, as I mentioned, some great, very impressive 3D tools. Remember, this came from the company that designed Solidworks, so they totally understand the land of 3D. And also get 2D constraints, which is a nice feature that doesn't even have anything to do with 3D, which allows you to set up constraints in your geometry. This circle is always going to be the same size as this circle. So you can set it up so there's a constraint between them. So if you modify one circle, the other circle changes as well. So that's something for you to think about. Okay, and then we also have something called 3D Experience DraftSight. This is last but certainly not least. This is for those of you who maybe have a cloud initiative and you really just want to up your game completely. This is going to take it even further than AutoCAD can take it, in that you will be working with the 3D Experience platform, which is phenomenal. And all your data is going to be up there in the cloud. You're going to be working up in the cloud, and you'll be able to do a lot of things, collaborate and access your data, anytime, anywhere, on any device type of scenario, which is something, thanks to COVID, we've certainly learned the importance of. So a lot, as we all know, so many companies are making the move over to the cloud. So this is another option for you. And you would also talk to your reseller if this was something that you were interested in. So don't listen to me. I'm a big fan of the try it before you buy it. And you can download DraftSight for free for 30 days, literally no strings attached. You don't have to give it your credit card. It always drives me nuts when you put your credit card in and then you forget to cancel and then they charge you. There's none of that going on here. At the end of 30 days, it just stops working, period. And no animals are harmed, okay? So all you have to do is just Google DraftSight. Just Google DraftSight. It'll send you to that free trial. You can try it for yourself. And I think that's important because the commands that I feel are essential for my happiness may not be the same as yours. And ultimately, we all want you to be happy. I don't want you to purchase DraftSight and be sad. That's no good either. You can also contact your local Solidworks reseller. You can ask them more questions. They can also get you a free trial, and they can, once again, be there to help you through the process, especially if you work at a larger corporation. You have a lot of DraftSight seats. I would definitely, or a lot of AutoCAD seats. I would definitely want to talk to a reseller. Let them work with you and help you be successful here. How do you find them? Solidworks.com/reseller. All right. They're wonderful. I love the Solidworks resellers. So in conclusion, I absolutely believe that you can use DraftSight for your CAD needs. You, once again, have to be open-minded, but it doesn't take much. As I said, my whining stopped after the first hour or two. You just have to brace yourself and know it's going to happen. You have to know it's different. It does require a little bit of change, but then once you start to use it, it's so easy. I feel super comfortable in there now, and there is no more whining. The whining has stopped, and the whining will stop for you too. Once again, I love AutoCAD, but I love my money more. And I do not have a money tree growing in my backyard, and I have been able to find all kinds of things I could do with the extra money that I saved by making the move over to DraftSight. If you have any additional questions, feel free. You can drop me an email. I'm happy to hear from you, or you can contact your reseller that I gave you that information before, solidworks.com/reseller. I want to thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of the day.